Hey guys, so this is What If Deku was Star-Lord Part 2. Now guys, basically this what if has this the part 2 of this what if has been delayed dramatically. Whatever. It's been delayed a long time. Now back then I was good at what ifs, but I was inconsistent with my attitude on certain what ifs. Not really attitude, my a certain, enthusiasm for other what ifs. Now, guys, at this video, shortly I'm going to have to, hype myself up to make the What If Deku was Colossus Part 3 video. Basically, guys, I think it was about 6, maybe 2 or 3 months since I made this Part 1. Now, I think Part 1 of this was the first time I actually used or the first time I really, I didn't really put that much effort in the thumbnail for my first one, but yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I made a better thumbnail. Got a lot better with my thumbnails. And yeah, enough talking. Let's just get into it because this has been overdue for a long time. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. The story back then, I really want to change it and redo this one. But at the same time, I still have a kind of a liking to the story I made in the beginning. So let's get into it, guys. We'll start our story off after pretty much we see that in this universe, just recap real quick. In this universe, Gamora is Ochaku, or Ochaku and Gamora are like an amalgamation of each other. Basically, Gamora, pretty much just how Gamora looks is Ochaku with purple hair and green skin. That's basically what Gamora looks like. And basically, also, pretty much, well, nah, it's probably just a Gamora with like a really light toned green skin. And she still has the whole entire, she still has a quirk and everything like that. It's mainly because, well, in this universe, her planet would still, die, whatever, but pretty much, she would be half human at the same time, meaning that she would have a quirk plus her alien species, look. And, she would also, be the daughter of, who. He'll be a really big runner-up in Part 3. Because Part 2, I'm going to try to fit in a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy and a lot of, Marvel, glimpse of them there. Now, last time I left off, if you don't know, basically, the setting for the story is that pretty much, well, in this universe, space travel, aliens, they're all normalcy. Basically, aliens have came to Earth, helped Earth, and helped Earth reproduce their pretty much, well, resources, mate with other humans, and bring other, species and hybrids into the world, making better heroes and multiple other things. Basically, on top of all that, very much them helping humans evolve into space travel, and basically humans evolving on top of the space travel they were taught, making humans, well, even more advanced, but not as advanced as other, ancient, pretty much, well, alien species. And basically, we see that pretty much Earth makes their own, pretty much, well, in the UA, basically space heroes are like a big thing, meaning that if you want to be a hero, you have to do space travel and go planet to planet and be a planetary hero to multiple other galaxies and stuff like that. Basically, we leave our story off after Deku pretty much goes to sleep for the night after having an encounter with this Ochaku or Gamora. Now, I'm probably going to say Gamora or Ochaku, they're the same people in this case. Now, basically, we pretty much see Deku wake up after a alarm goes off. Pretty much Deku being confused. The ship starts to shake and Deku gets up immediately. Deku starts walking around and he gets into the main, pretty much lunch hall. Basically him looking around, trying to see. At this point, Deku was in black shorts and he was pretty much basically shirtless. Basically him just having black sleep shorts on. And basically he started looking around saying, what's happening? Basically hearing a beeping and flashing red lights. Basically, Kirishima would have ran into the lunch hall as well, because it would be a passing point into the main area where, you steer the ship. Basically, he would have said what's going on. Deku's saying, I don't know. Basically, we would see pretty much Ida passed by both of them using his enhanced, pretty much quirk to pretty much bolts to the whole ship to the pretty much main area, or pretty much the guiding system, the cockpit. Now basically he would run over there and he would start looking around and he would see basically Waterhouse telling everybody to stay put. Basically, them passing through some dark matter. Basically, dark matter in this universe is basically it would be kind of like dark matter in Another Life, that Netflix TV show, and basically they would start rushing through it, basically getting hit with multiple blasts of electricity or lightning. Basically, Deku being confused on why is lightning coming out of space clouds. And basically, Waterhose said, "Did you even read the space manual?" Basically, him throwing it or chucking it upside Deku's forehead. Deku would have said, "I don't read something like that." Basically, pretty much, Deku would have known it, but he would not pay as much mind to it. Deku always, researched and always, dreamed of coming, getting to a point of being a space hero. And Deku would see that pretty much it was going downhill, and it was a huge amount of damage to pretty much the top area of the ship that needed to be repaired manually from the outside. And after they passed through the, dark matter, they were about one light year away from their destination or the next planet that needed a distress call. Oa, or not Oa, Edjo. Now, basically, Edjo would be a technological advanced, well, race that was extremely advanced, but that needed some help since their resources were very more depleted than Earth's resources now. And this would be Edjo. Edjo's planet or surface of the planet would basically be their water supply, and their oxygen would be so pure at this point that, if anybody stepped foot on it, in theory, their whole system would be cleared of any type of, virus, any, well, anything that would make them impure, physically or biologically. Basically, their planet's pretty much oxygen being so priceless at the point where pretty much people would literally, pretty much rage wars to buy this planet or to even own it, because the oxygen on this planet would basically be so pure in a state that it would basically cure any type of sickness, even an alien virus for that matter. Now, basically, this would be Edjo's pretty much space city. Basically, they would be very technologically advanced, with flying ships, cars, huge, towers and houses, and the natives there would basically look similar to engineers from the Alien or from the Alien movies. Basically, they would be a little bit shorter, basically about their normal, you know, height for their pretty much species would be the same height as the Rock, and their normal build for their species would be as built as pretty much Martian Manhunter's type of, superhero form, like really built like Superman-esque build. And pretty much their species, most of them would all be muscular because they wouldn't have any impurities that go in their body to make them out of shape. And basically, they would all have blue skin and aqua eyes, and also have a couple of abilities like superhuman strength, durability, pretty much, and also their native ability that makes them special is being able to pretty much be technopaths and also empaths as well. Basically, them at some capacity, some of their elders being able to read minds on a global scale. Now, basically, we pretty much see that Deku and the rest of the ship, they would have been in the orbit of the planet, basically having to patch up the ship. Kirishima would have volunteered to go into his, pretty much, what was it, his a suit or their spacesuit, and basically go out there and repair it himself. Basically, with the same type of pretty much repairing thing they use in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 to repair or pretty much bring back the ship after they crashed on the planet, running into the gold core, going through that mine patch and stuff like that in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And basically, he would be patching up the pretty much breach, and he would have done it with no altercations. He would have gone back into the ship, Basically, them seeing that they were already moving and they were getting ready to land on the planet. They landed on the planet, basically them getting permission to land there, and basically Waterhose telling them to go without him. Now, basically, since Waterhose was, injured or whatever, basically, he told him to go, and basically, he left Ida in charge. Deku was kind of, angered by this, but he didn't really care, because he knew he was going to one of the planets that was on his top list to go to and, help. Basically, they will arrive on the planet, and one of their natives in human years will be 16, but in their years be about 10. Now, basically, he would have told them, to come this way, and basically would have showed them to the palace. On this planet, they would have more of a weird, you know, weird democracy. Basically, kings and queens would be a thing, but you have to fight for the role of a king or a queen. It doesn't matter if you're even related to the queen or queen at all. You can be a whole entire different species. All you gotta do is win a tournament of power. Most likely, a royal bloodline will oversee this, since royal bloodlines do tend to have better genetic code to make them stronger than other, well, natives on the planet. Basically, the other, native there that's helping them, he would go by the name of Kylo. Basically, he would have told them pretty much that, well, it doesn't matter what you came from. You could be a whole entire different species as long as you've been born on this planet and at least raised. You can, well, fight against a king or a prince to win the tournament, a battle that comes once every few years, and basically become a prince or a king. Basically, the king or queen adopting you and making their son that lost the fight basically become, a normal person, not a lower, like poor person, a poor class person on their planet, but just a middle class person that just has to live in a house on the outskirts of the pretty much city. And they would still have the whole entire luxury of the money and everything, but they wouldn't be given the luxury of royalty, like being respected at all times and being able to talk down to anybody they want to. And pretty much getting any people, like pretty much getting everything. And basically, pretty much, you would see that pretty much Deku would have, been writing most of this down, saying I never learned this much off the, internet scans on this planet. And basically, we pretty much see them walk into the palace, and basically they would be well introduced by the queen and the king. The king would have told them about their situation and about how it was a tyrant on their planet that was trying to pretty much hoard all of the natural food resources on their planet. Since their food resources on their planet depleted, because the plants they grow on their planet don't really grow good with their pure oxygen. So basically, their planet asked them to basically stop the tyrant, so we can find or pretty much execute the plan to pretty much make our crops and our food replenish themselves and come back as their rightful states. But he's stopping that because he wants to keep the rest of the supplies to himself and blah blah blah. Basically saying that he's a timer, he just wants everything, he's crazy, blah blah blah. And basically they would have said yes. But they wouldn't know that this tyrant was one of their natives, but would have been genetically modified by his father. And his father on this planet would be basically a mad scientist of sorts, and basically would have been obsessed with pretty much making their species the strongest and most omnipotent species, making them semi-gods biologically. And basically, we'll see that this modified, pretty much Edgeo, Edge, and basically their species would be called an Edge. Basically, this tyrant would be called, I think, what was it? Shock, or what was it? Shock, as in the electric, like shock. Basically, he would have been modified to basically be semi invulnerable to a extent, and also be able to jump at extremely stupid lengths like Superman level, and also just be able to move incredibly fast, faster than the human eye could see. And pretty much the edges or the natives of this planet, their reaction time is about the same reaction time as humans, just about 1 time faster. And basically, pretty much, we would see that pretty much Shock would have been sitting and would have been guarding the supplies for himself, and it would be a huge crop field that he would have multiple of his guards and also some of his brothers actually guarding. That basically Shock would have been sitting in pretty much a cavern, basically planning on his next attack against the pretty much the kingdom, since he says on this planet their system would have been actually good and everybody would be treated equally, since every species or every native on this planet weren't really divided, since they all look the same. They had different facial details, obviously, but they all had the same look, skin complexion. Basically see that pretty much Shock would have started to try to take down the system, since pretty much if you do crimes, you're automatically labeled as a criminal. And when you're labeled as a criminal, you're basically treated for the rest of your life. And even your ancestors from that point are treated with the utmost disrespect. Basically, not really being treated like edges or even to their standards equals at all. Not even by some of the kindest royalty in the world. Some of the kindest royalty on their planet. Basically, we see that pretty much Shock would have been in his cabin on the field. Basically, him sensing something, since he would be genetically modified with extra senses. Basically, him hearing the squad team that Ida put together to help the edges. Now, basically, Deku would have been on the squad team. Basically, them having the task to just get in, take down Shock, stop the whole tyrant thing, and basically activate the pretty much restored bomb, or pretty much the toxin, not the toxin, but the cure to pretty much the multi problem they have with their crops. And basically, we'll see that pretty much Deku and the rest of his team would have gone in there. Basically, his team being comprised of Kirishima, Denki, and basically, let's say, I think Tokiyami. Now basically, we see them all get ready for their mission. Basically, them being pretty much Todoroki and Bako hitching on their team as well. Now basically, they would get started, and pretty much they would have gone in there. Now basically, they would start to run around, taking multiple of the soldiers out, trying to stop the crops from getting damaged or being stomped on at all costs. Now Deku passing by all the guards and basically going straight for Shock himself. Now basically Deku would have started to shoot a full blast at Shock. Basically him busting into his cavern and throwing multiple gravity bombs down towards Shock. Now Shock would have crushed him before they can activate. Basically him throwing his whole desk like Superman style straight towards Deku. Deku would get hit by the table and get hit out of the cavern. Basically them seeing this. That pretty much Shock would have crawled out of the cavern and basically would have told Deku, or would have told Star-Lord, since Deku's hero name he put down was Star-Lord. Basically, he would have grabbed Deku from the leg and basically started to run, pretty much throw him around like Thor did Loki in Avengers. Basically, throwing Deku like a ragdoll into multiple trees and crops, crushing them as well. Basically, because of Shock's, experience, him basically being crazy and him not really having any type of real motivation to do anything he's doing. Basically, just trying to cause havoc at all costs. Now, basically, we see Deku would get thrown around left and right, and Deku would have took out pretty much a new item he was working on, an electric staff. Basically, taking it out and him working some bow staff moves against pretty much Shock. Now, basically, Shock would have took out another bow staff. Basically, it being made out of kind of a rare metal on your pretty much Ejo. Basically, this planet's middle being similar to Earth's middle, but a little bit more stronger, about 2 times stronger than the strongest middle on our planet. Now, basically, we see him start the fight against Deku. Basically, Deku using his new electric or pretty much laser bow staff against him. Basically, him working on this, but pretty much him not having a solid power source for this, so it would flicker on and off. Basically, it working like if a lightsaber turned off and on randomly. Now, basically, Deku would start the fight against this, well, person basically left and right, but basically, eventually, he would have gotten overpowered physically against this person. Now, Deku would have dodged more and more attacks, basically, him shooting more and more blasts of energy at pretty much shock. And basically, he would have used his emotion or his element guns, more pretty much dead shot wise. Basically, him shooting at Shock over and over, not letting him get up, barraging him with fire attacks, electric attacks, and also some water and ice blast. Now, Shock would have gotten angry and would have picked up a whole section of the ground and would have thrown it on top of Deku's body. Now, pretty much Deku, before he was crushed by the rubble, the rock that Shock was about to crush him with, he would have blasted out of the way with his rocket boots, basically landing near Todoroki. Todoroki would have shooted a huge glacier of ice, freezing Shock instantly, winning the fight. Now, basically, let's say pretty much as they thought they would win, Shock would have broken out of the ice. Basically, them being confused on why Shock was so strong for just, edge for it. Because they were pretty strong. They were pretty strong. They could have, they could throw normal human, like, feet, like, yards away, crush a car, stuff like that. But we never thought, they could actually survive so much, pretty much beating, because Deku, hit Shock with so many element blasts like ice blast, fire, electricity over and over at pretty much medium blast since Deku didn't want to kill him. But basically, Deku put his guns on, high setting and started to straight up go berserker. Just started, start shooting down. I mean, like, straight up trying to murk this man's Shock. Now, basically, Todoroki would have started to shoot multiple icebergs over and over, glaciers, and Shock would have been dodging most of the attacks, but would got hit mainly by Deku's blast and also by pretty much Tokiyami's shadow attacks that he was doing. And Tokiyami would have done the whole entire shadow armor thing and would have started the box with Shock. He would have grabbed Shock, cornering him, giving Deku the right shot, right with the electric blast, right towards Shock's forehead, basically hitting Shock in the forehead and knocking him out. As they were doing this, basically, pretty much, as they were doing this, Denki came in clutch, basically with a couple of pretty much handcuffs, and would have cuffed pretty much Shock. Shock would have tried to break out of them, but these would be pretty much universal handcuffs that would basically be able to nullify any type of power or other worldly power, basically making any person or any pretty much thing that was put under these collars, their strength and their powers being nullified to the strength and the speed of a human, average human. And basically, they would grab pretty much Shock and would have thrown him into one of the vans and would have let them get cut, let them, let his, pretty much system deal with him that way. They would get rewarded their points and their money, and basically, pretty much, they would be up to about 30 points at this point, since this would be a pretty big problem for Ejo, since Ejo didn't have the resources to just go up against Shock, because Shock was a very tactical and brutal person, since he always just annihilated the people that tried to go up against him, just to remove them, and they didn't want to risk any more of their soldiers. So yeah, so basically they would move on to their next planet, and this story is a little bit better than the last one. Basically, we start our story off with one of the main villains. The Guardians got to go up against multiple times, Ronan the Accuser. We start this mission off with basically we switch a couple of days later, about 5 days later, when we see the Guardians, or pretty much the team of the class, basically just, cruising through space. Basically him, just, basically Deku in his room, Basically, just chilling, doing some push-ups. Basically, just training his body. He was using some, alien tech to heal his body up since he was, bruised up since the last mission. And basically, we see it pretty much. Momo would have came to Deku's door. And basically, Momo would have started to talk to Deku. Now, Deku would have started to talk to her. Basically, Momo trying to sort of flirt with Deku, since on the comms, since Ito only took a couple people with him for the mission. Basically, we said pretty much Momo would have had a little bit of a crush on Deku since the first mission. And basically, she would have started to talk to Deku, trying to find out more about him. Basically, him talking to her back. Now, basically, they would have started to talk back and forth, them kind of flirting with each other, but they would have been interrupted when pretty much Waterhose would have announced that he was all better now and that his injury healed pretty quickly. Now, basically, he would have told them that we're gonna get ready, and pretty much he would have told them to get ready and get, suited up. And basically, as they got suited up, Deku getting into his clothes, basically they would get told that it was a very big, distress call. It was some points, an unknown number of points involved in this mission. But basically, you will see pretty much Waterhose tell them to get suited up. All up. Straight up saying that this was a level Omega. It was a very serious and very threatening mission that multiple people were sent on but never came back. Basically, Waterhose taking this mission since they were actually told or called by the actual, EUA space station about the distress call since it was so urgent, and that they read files on the people that were on that ship saying that they could probably handle this problem semi well and could find out more information. Now basically they would get ready and basically would hear pretty much Deku, get suited up in his Star-Lord fit. And basically they would have flown to basically a old planet, or a planet that was used to inhabit multiple other species of aliens. Pretty much a utopia, a artificial planet that was basically abandoned over time since pretty much more artificial planets were made, and Earth, welcomed most aliens and blah blah blah. Pretty much aliens were scattered around the pretty much space at this point, basically making it so that pretty much multiple other tourist tourist places for aliens were mainly empty, and some of them just rebought. And this one was rebought by somebody that went missing about a month ago. Basically, they were told, or only a couple people were actually sent on the planet since this was a highly valued, a really serious mission. So Waterhose went there himself down there. Basically, he would have taken Bakugo, Todoroki, Deku, and basically Momo and Ochaku and Kirishima. Basically, knowing that they were some of the strongest and one of the some most experienced on the ship, other than Ochaku. But he wanted to keep Ochaku here since he didn't think she was ready for this type of mission yet. Now, basically, Ochaku would have asked him, "Why are you leaving me here?" And Waterhouse said, "You will come. I'll ask you, or I'll take on the mission due time." Basically, him and them getting to a pretty much a pod, basically flying down and landing on the planet without landing the ship on the planet. And basically, we see that they get up the pod. Basically, pretty much Kirishima being left behind to basically look after the ship. And basically, the pretty much not look after the ship, but look after the pod. And basically, we see Deku, Waterhose, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Momo get ready for, going on their well-valued mission. But they would get to the area at the well, most tech scan. They did a little tech scan on the planet, finding out that it was a type of fortress or a ship pretty much landed on this planet that was docking here for a couple days or a month. The same time the person that by this planet was missing. Now pretty much Deku didn't really care, so he just, flashed off from the rest of the team, pretty much sneaking into the back of the ship. He would have gone to the ship, basically them telling him to stop, but they would have seen that he wasn't stopping. So the rest of the team would have followed him. Water hose reluctantly were following the rest of the students. And basically, they would have gone to the ship, basically them looking around. One of the guards would have seen them and would have shot at them, trying to make noise to alert the others. But Deku would have took him down with a pretty much an ice blast, freezing him solid. And basically, Todoroki was about to put his hand up, saying, I had that." Basically, Deku was saying, "No, you didn't." Now, as they were sprinting down the halls, I'm not really sprinting, but lightly tiptoe jogging, basically, they would eventually came to pretty much a really stereotype of hallway maze area. They would have gotten their way up the ship, down, up towards, the main, well, pretty much control panel. They would have gotten up there, basically, and buzzed into the door, telling, whoever was there to, give up the act, or give up. We're here. Basically, we see them here laughing of all things after pretty much a valued space program or space, cadets were about to take him out. But basically, the man would have blue skin, and he would have told them that I don't think you're ready for what you're coming by. Now, basically, Deku would be confused. The man would have slowly told Deku to, look at him. Now, Deku would have looked at him closer, him having flashbacks of a man most people on Earth talked about for some time that said he was a tyrant. And Deku would remember that this man, this being, was Ronin the Accuser. Ronin would have slowly looked at, would have looked at Bakugo, Todoroki, Deku, Water Hose, and, all of them at the same time. Basically, him looking at them slowly and him saying that this is going to be fun. Basically, him laying down his sledgehammer, holding it by the end of the, handle, and him chucking it Thor style towards the rest of the team. Water Hose would have tried to stop the hammer, but him getting knocked upside the head, getting laid out like a blanket. Now the hammer would have flown back towards Ronin, and Ronin would have started to fight the rest of the team. Ronin would have slowly looked in Deku's eyes as Deku was pushing the hammer back away from him with multiple other fire blasts, keeping him at bay, and Ronin would have told him, "Is that the best you can do?" Ronin would have ran towards the fire, basically hitting Deku in the stomach with the hammer on the flat side, pushing Deku or projecting Deku forwards or backwards into the door that they walked through. Now, the rest of the team, or Todoroki and Bakugo, would have gone all out against Ronin. Now, Ronin would have seen that they were pretty strong and opponentable, basically getting pushed back more and more. And Ronin would have grabbed Bakugo's hand after he threw an explosion that missed, and would have told him that, you should have watched out, little boy. Him breaking Bakugo's arm, cracking it, and shattering it. Bakugo would have yelled out in pain, and Deku would have seen this. Basically, him not really feeling that much sympathy, but him just getting back up and shooting more blasts towards Ronin. Now, Todoroki would have shot more pretty much ice blast towards Ronin, and basically Ronin dodging most of the attacks, and him hitting one last big blow towards the both of them, hitting Deku on the side, Deku falling into Todoroki, and them getting pushed out of the room into another room, breaking through a wall. Now Ronin would have looked towards Water Hose waking up slowly, and pretty much Ronin would have said, "What a shame," and would have killed Water Hose right there, slamming his head in. Basically, we see the rest of the team would have been shocked by this. Todoroki and Deku still being able to see through the hole they made when they fell through the wall. Basically, them seeing that their mentor, the person that got them this far, was murdered in front of their eyes. They would have yelled out in rage, and all of them going up against Ronin. Ronin would have seen that these kids were filled with rage, some fear, and some others pure terrified. Ronan would have seen this, but he would have told them goodbye and would have activated a type of a type of system in his main communication sensor, teleporting all of them out of the ship, and basically the ship teleporting away. Basically them yelling out in rage. Basically Ronan looking at Waterhouse's dead body in his control room and telling his guards to get this thing out of my room or out of my presence. And basically after that, we'll basically see a purple skinned girl saying, "So, there was Gamora with you?" Basically Ronan saying, "No." Now I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Now, guys, I did try a little bit of a different type of narrating voice, a little bit of a deeper voice, and basically, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that type of new, narrating thing I did. And basically, guys, I was gonna make it a little bit longer, but I just like the more, pretty much cliffhanger-ish for this what if. The cliffhanger. But basically, part 3, it's basically just gonna be about Ronan and the team trying to fight against Ronan. Now, what would happen to the team after that? Let's just say they would come back and they would tell, when they wouldn't really tell anybody, that they would have known since they saw blood in their bodies. And they would have seen all of them mainly injured, Deku having a huge bloody gash and mark on the side of his, hip, since he was hit really hard by a middle hammer by Ronan, the accuser, and he was hit through a wall as well. Todoroki also having some bruises on his body since he was, hit by it. He went through the wall first, and Deku shortly followed after him, since Deku pushed into Todoroki, and he pushed Todoroki into the in through the wall. Deku following through the wall as well. And basically, I'm gonna leave it up here, guys. Like, for real. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Who gets like subscribers? Always, guys. Have a blessed day.